Hey there, I'm Lee from PlayGuitarAcademy.com. I help frustrated guitar players get back to getting better at the guitar. To get the most out of your practice, you need to harness the power of the routine. I'm about to show you just how powerful it is and how you can use this to achieve results on the guitar. Guitar practice routines. So as we talked about a la carte learnings, it's not the best way to learn. It's disjointed, it's scattered, but it's a lot of fun at first, right? You're picking, oh, this guy's going to teach me exactly what I want to play. It's a lot of fun at first, but eventually it catches up with you and you get stuck. So what's the cure for that? The cure for that is a routine. Well, I'm going to talk about the word routine a little bit. It's thrown around a lot. It's used in place of practice time. Oh, I've got a routine I'm working on. And usually that just means this is your time that you practice, and maybe it's every day at the same time, or it may not be. The problem is when it's used like that, we're missing the point. We're missing the strength, the power of that. So what I did was, when I like to do and really get to the bottom of these things, is I went to the dictionary and I looked up routine. And this is from the Oxford Dictionary. It says it's a sequence of actions regularly followed, a fixed program. A sequence of actions regularly followed. That's the operative part to that. This is all about long-term memory. It's all about going on autopilot, getting yourself to that place where you don't have to think. You can just play. And it's very possible for anyone getting to that place. It's about getting out of that. I always talk about the going to school and studying the night before a test into the wee hours of the night, and then waking up the next morning, taking the test, getting your A on your test. And then as you walk out the door, what happens to all that information? Gone. You never remember it again. You are fighting to keep those memories in the forefront of your mind. It was effort. I remember sometimes where I had to do that in high school. And you'd wake up the next morning and it's like you didn't even sleep because you're just fighting to keep all that information in your head. Short-term memory. But you don't have to remember how to tie your shoes. You don't have to remember how to drive your car. Hey, it took you a long time to learn how to drive a car, a couple of weeks, right? But then you have years and years and years of doing it without thinking about it. And you can drive your car and you can have your drink and put your leg on the steering wheel and eat your fast food and drive down the road, right? And you're not thinking about what you're doing. You're operating this machine, not even thinking. That's what we're trying to get to with the guitar. We have a lot of little technical little things that we have to learn, and we need to get past that. And how do we get past that? Repetition, routine, repetition, routine. We don't want to play guitar and have a bad time. The number one way to have a good time when you're playing music is to know your stuff, is to know the song, know it so well that you don't have to think about it anymore. You can just play it. That's the goal. That's where we're trying to get to. And there's a very easy path to getting that. And that path is through repetition. It's everything. We talk about the DNA of music as the major scale and repetition. That's the bottom line. If you've got those two things, everything else is built upon them. And that's success right there. So it's all about achieving goals, but what is it that's worth repeating? Well, let's talk about some of it. What are the things that we repeat in guitar that's worth it, that's worth our time? The first is finger shapes, finger movements, moving back and forth between chords. I'm not thinking. I'm talking to you. I'm playing through chord progress. I don't even know what key I'm playing in. Okay, I'm on autopilot. All these different shapes. All these fancy chords that I've learned at one time. I practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And I repeated those over and over. And I remember learning this. We've talked about this a couple times lately. This is the G minor 7 chord, 4-note versions in 4 places up the guitar. I remember practicing this. This is how I would do it. And I go over and over and over and over again while I was watching TV, when I was during regular practice time, just any time that I could have. When I didn't have my guitar, I would try and make the shapes in the air when I had a few minutes to do that. Chords, scale patterns, and technique exercises as well. These are things that are worth repeating. We're building pathways between our brain to our fingers, to the strings, to the pickups, to the speaker. That's the workflow right there. So finger shapes, finger movements, any kind of chords, any kind of scale patterns, getting a routine, daily routine where you don't lose them. You revisit them time after time, even if you've got them. I know one of the ways I teach is I like to think of the guitar as a whole, and we work on all of the patterns. I don't just do one pattern and then forget it. We work on all the patterns, starting at, not in the beginning, but starting at, I think it's 202. We think of the guitar neck as a whole, repeating those over and over and over and over again. Once you get them, they start to become a lot of fun. So they're worth repeating. Building the hand-eye coordination, so important. But how about songs, repertoire, building a stable of songs that you can play at any moment, and not be preoccupied with the basics, the things that you should already know to be able to play those songs. Those are worth repeating over and over again. Why? Because, well, that's the most basic way. That's the best way to have fun. When you can go and be. Have you ever? I played I remember there was a place it was in Newark, Delaware, where the University of Delaware is. It was called Klondike Kate's. It was a bar and a restaurant, and this was a restaurant where a lot of people whose kids go to University of Delaware, they would come in and they'd spend time. It's kind of like family time for the students there. The parents would come in and they go to Klondike Kate's and eat, and there'd be music playing. It was a lot of fun, and I would be the music playing there for some times, and it was loud, man. People were dropping plates, people yelling, screaming, and very distracting. Very distracting. It was worth playing because it was a fun place and people really enjoyed the music, but it was just a loud place. And a few times I didn't know songs well enough, and something would take me out of it. Sometimes it was even just people who would just walk up and say hi, and they're just being nice, and you smile and how you doing, and then you have no idea where you're on the song. The song has moved on, right? So if I knew those songs cold, it wouldn't have been a problem. I could jump right back on again. And being able to go from being lost in a song to back on the train again, that's a better skill than even learning the song in the first place. You know, because it will always happen. So repeating songs it's really worth it to get you to that place where you can play without effort. But the last thing that's worth repeating is concepts. Using new sounds, new chord progressions, things that are unfamiliar. It's the only way to make the unfamiliar familiar. Playing these over and over again. Say I had a student Sunday night, we were working on the Lydian mode. We actually went through all the modes, and that was the one he liked the most. So we're repeating that over and over and over again. The Lydian has, it's like a major scale, but it has a raised fourth. And that sound takes a little bit of time for you to get used to it. One, for the playing, but mostly for the how to use that. That's a dissonant note in the middle of a bunch of happy sounds. How do you use that? So repeating those over and over and over again gives your brain that time, commits it to long-term memory. Once you have that sound, have those shapes, you're good to go. And then you can start to use it in a way that's musical. Okay, but the last thing I'm going to talk about today with guitar practice routines, now that we're really talking about the repetition in routines. The last thing that is super helpful about that is backtracking if you're frustrated. And I think this is the most important routine of all. And this is for advanced players. You know who you are, who skate around things that you're not quite comfortable with. This is for intermediate players, okay, who may have gotten excited about learning something and skipped over some stuff. And you know who you are, right? So going back and revisiting fundamentals is the most important routine of all. I do it every day. Every day as a teacher, I go back over fundamental skills every day, and it is wonderful. My fundamental skills on the guitar are solid. So solid. They're burned into my thinking. And what does that do for me? It makes me calm. When I'm playing, I'm calm. I may not be calm in life, especially with what's going on now. It's not a calm time to be. But when I'm playing, I'm calm because I have the skills that I need. Why? Because I go over them and over them and over them and over them. There are not many musical situations that I would get stressed out about right now. There's not many that I couldn't understand. There's a few, but there's not many musical situations where I wouldn't understand what's going on. I could understand what's going on, and I could add something to that, or say. It might take me a little bit of time, but I'm not worried about that. I wouldn't be worried about that. So what would you do to build a routine that would actually make you better and get better faster? What are the things that you would do? I'm curious to know. And so if you're watching on YouTube, if you're live, put it into the chat. But if you're watching on YouTube at a later point, put it down in the comments. Or if you're listening to the podcast, go on over to the show notes page and leave a comment there. I'm really curious about, now that you've heard all of this, and I'm kind of trying to create a mindset in you to succeed. That's where I'm going with this. So I'm curious to know, what would you do to build a routine that would actually make you better, faster? Thanks for hanging out with me today. I want to make sure that you download your free practice room setup checklist. It's been a big download for me. It helped a lot of people out. It's over at playguitaracademy.com/practice. Also leave a comment below. Let me know about your practice routine. What have you found effective? I'm so thankful that you've watched my video today, and thanks for subscribing to the channel, and make sure you check out the other videos in this series. I'll see you soon.